everyone. All right. Who loves some Hellraiser? Okay, I think we can do just a little bit better than that. Who loves some Hellraiser? Now make that noise times like 1,000 for our legendary Hellraiser cast, John Chapman, Oliver Smith. Let's go.
Very good. Good to be here.
It's been a fun but tiring week, yeah?
Yeah, enormously grateful. The love in the room when we're signing is fantastic. To see the film has just got this long, long life is wonderful for all of us. So I'm very grateful.
Okay, so I would just love to start this one out. I want to talk to each of you about your acting journey. How did you get involved in acting?
My friend Huey Armstrong, one day, a great friend of mine, was already an actor, and I was a bit disillusioned, quite young at the time, or whatever, and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. So I said to him, I asked him, I said, "What's this acting malarkey like then?" He said, "Yeah." It turned out I'd already said this to my dad, who wanted me to be interviewed by my then stepmother. So I had to get Huey, my friend, along to explain to my stepmother and my dad that I may or may not have been eligible to qualify as an actor. And the reason I'm chuckling is because along we went and sat into the sitting room of this house in Bedford, which is about just north of London. And it was like, "Well, Hugh," said my stepmother to him, "do you think that Oliver's got what it takes to be an actor?" And he replied, "Well, if I can bloody well get away with it, I'm sure he can." That's how he spoke. So that was the sort of the point where I followed Hugh's footsteps. I auditioned for RADA. I didn't get into RADA, but I did send the Central School of Speech and Drama I did audition for, and successfully got in. It was a delightful academy. I had the best 3 years of my life. So happy, and I was kind of frightened to think I started off and came out okay. I could talk about that place for hours. A lot of friendships, a wonderful teacher called George Wall, who was 100 years old last week. And that's how it all came to be. So I landed off. Theatre at the beginning, you have to do your 42 weeks of theatre before you can do any telly or film. So I went to the Glasgow Citizens Theatre to start off. Followed down to Sheffield, other places you won't have heard of, it doesn't really matter, before I was eligible to join the television market, where I played the low-life scumbag, villains and things. And the rest is history. This little job came up because they were looking for a skinny actor. Supposed to have sort of, a full bloody zombie-fine film extra guy. I'm going to put them down, but they didn't want an extra, they wanted an actor, an animated one. So I got that job, Clownmarker, and got to meet my chum there, look. And that's about says it. That's about as far as we've got with the answer to the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. John, how about you? How did you start?
I think like a lot of actors, I was pretty useless at school. And not enjoying school. Around 10, 11, we'd moved around a lot. I'd never settled at school. I loved English and literature and drama, but I had very, very poor formal education in that till that came much later. But the one thing I did want to do was act, and I didn't know I wanted to act. I just knew I was drawn to the process of seeing other human beings behaving in an organized way. And I remember a specific thing of being with my mother and my grandmother in Hertfordshire on a winter night. And in those days, when I was a very young kid, 6 or 7, in English television, we always used to have armchair theatre, and there would always be something like, on a Saturday night, there'd always be something like a play by Sophocles, or something equally rare. And I was about 6 or 7, and I was watching Oedipus Rex by Sophocles with a group of classical actors on television in black and white. And I made a noise, and my grandmother looked over and said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, he just did the line wrong." And I didn't know the play, and I didn't know the text in any way, but I just knew that the actor could have made a different choice. And he made, in my opinion, at 6 years old, the wrong one. And that sort of stuck with me. I began to then watch movies with that awareness. I was thinking, no, you didn't do it, no, you should have done that, you should have done that. So it was terribly pretentious, completely nonsensical, but it became something I identified with as a way of watching performance. And years later, I was about 14, 15, I decided I'd had enough of school, full stop. I was in a lot of trouble. And I had the option of either basically going into institutional care or going to a drama school for children. And I did. I went to the drama school for children, and about a year later I was making a film with Nastasha Kinski in Germany. And I thought, yeah, that'll do. And that's how that began. And so I've got Sophocles and Oedipus Rex to thank, and Nastasha too. But yeah, that's how it started.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah. All right, I want to move on. I want to start by asking each one of you about a couple of other things you've done that is not Hellraiser. I know it was a lifetime ago, so we all understand if the details are fuzzy. I can't even remember yesterday. So, let's start with you, babe. This wasn't so much of a lifetime ago. You recently worked with your fellow Cenobite Simon in Dark Ditties. Can we talk about Dark Ditties?
I can, yes. Simon Bamford is a lovely man, I get him very well with him. I had a bit of a tough time. It's strange enough, in all my career, it was all a bit weird that I'd rather not expound on it in case I upset anybody. But of all the jobs I've ever had in my life, it's got a bit iffy towards the end. It's all to do with management and not good things going on. So, yes, I kind of would like to bypass some other jobs. It's just polite to do so. So, good question.
Okay.
Wrong question.
Well, let's talk about Jesus of Nazareth.
Ah, yes.
That's one of my father's favorites growing up.
Yes, again, a happy job, but it was not the huge biggest part of the world. I mean, Saul on the road to, I didn't play Saul on the road to Damascus, but I did play a zealot called Saul, along with him, Shane, and a couple of other really nice people. I had a lovely time over there, but there was a great deal of hanging about, I would say, which didn't matter in the Moroccan desert or thereabouts. And yes, we just got to do that, and we all had a lovely time. It's one of those jobs where you're waiting to be used, so you use up your time being a bit naughty. And eventually one was used, and it was kind and Oliver, you're free to go. So we got on the plane and came home again. Happy job though.
There we go.
Well, I suppose if I'm not going to talk about theatre which you haven't seen, which will be tedious, I'll talk about a film you haven't seen because it was on BBC television. But I had made a film called Scum with a director called Alan Clark in England. It was a very powerful film. Watching it now, I'm fully aware that you could never make it now. It's so violent and it's so dark. And it's a film about young boys in a borstal and an institution. And you couldn't make it now because it was based on true events. Everyone would be far too sensitive and we'd all get cancelled for making it now. But Alan became, I had a very small part in it. I was about 16, 17, and I shot a scene in the film which I was too young to watch. That might tell you something about what the scene was. It was the rape of another prisoner in a greenhouse, which in prisons and boys' schools sometimes occurs. And it was a small part, but I took it on and I was as ferocious with it as I could be. And about a year later, Alan contacted me to do a film called Contact, which was about the paratroops in Northern Ireland. England's Vietnam, in a sense, on a smaller scale, but that business of should we be there or shouldn't we be there, and if you have troops there at all, it's very dangerous because you can't recognize the enemy. Everybody's wearing civilian clothing, except your troops who stand out like a sore thumb. Long story short, the film, in order for me to play it, I had to go and work with the paratroops and do a sort of 6-week shortened version of their officer training corps, which was the biggest shock, but the most fantastic experience. And I can see that Son's got a couple of books here, which is one of the reasons I'm citing this. Playing the paratroop captain, getting to know the guys in the paras and doing some of the more intense parts of the training, really do, as a young man in your 20s, bring you face to face with who you are, how tough you are not, and all that sort of thing. And jumping out of aircraft was character forming stuff. It's one of those experiences that as an actor, money can't buy. You know, if you're a civilian, you're not going to get the chance to spend 6 weeks working with the airborne military. And as an actor out of the blue, somebody phones you and says, "Hi, I'm making this film and you're the guy to play paratroop captain." The film went on to win multiple awards in European TV and stood me in great stead. People would phone up 10 years later and say, "Is Sean available because he did that particular film?" It had a big effect on me, and I love doing it, and we'll go back to that thread at some point. But yes, that was amazing. That's the sort of thing that can happen on a good day as an actor. It makes up for the days when the phone never rings, and that happens a lot. Yeah.
You had something in your credits I haven't seen, but the title intrigued me. The synopsis is hilarious, and it is available on Amazon, so I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah.
Eat the Rich. Can we talk about whatever the hell that is?
Yeah. Genres do exist, don't they? They come and they go. Eat the Rich.
The Rich
Was a low-budget British comedy film made by a group of people who were very, very influential in 1980s comedy on TV. And I can't really describe the film other than to say it was about the fact that the restaurant industry and the abuse of money in the 80s had reached a critical point. And this particular restaurant in the story would sell you giraffe and zebra. And it was the joke was that these parasitic idiots, you know, who were over wealthy, would go to the restaurant and gorge on the most ridiculous food. I think I probably did 2 or 3 days on it or something. It wasn't
I got to watch it.
yeah, you must.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, come back to me.
I will.
Seen it. I haven't ever seen it, so I don't really know. It's one of those things you do and walk away from.
Right.
Yeah.
Until it gets brought up
Until
30
it
more
gets
years
brought
later.
up. Yeah.
Okay, who is Guy Bowman? Sean is an author of many books, but these are 2 that he co-authored with the Misses. And they're thrillers, and I haven't had a chance to read them yet because I just purchased them, but I can't wait. Can you talk about this?
Yes, this is the connection with the paratroop story. So I was coming home from a play one night in London on the subway, and it was a magazine, an Evening Standard newspaper magazine on the train late at night, and I picked it up and I was flicking through it. And there was a section on the dark web, which I think we were looking at about 2011, 2012 when this was going on. And I hadn't really known anything about it, wasn't particularly interested in it, but I read the article, and I read this amazing piece of information that the dark web, even then, was something like, and there'll be people here who know the truth of this, but it's something like 100 times bigger than the internet. There is more stuff, particularly then, there was more stuff on the dark web. Everything from every library ticket you'd ever given up, to every email address you'd ever abandoned, to the most horrific imagery and the ability to buy somebody's life. And I read this article on the train and I was thinking, how on earth would you sort that out? How on earth would we ever deal with that? And I was thinking about a couple of the guys in the paratroop regiment, and I was thinking, I know what they do. They'd go in and they'd storm it, and before the end of the train journey, I'd written a book. I thought, yeah, his name is X, and this is what he's doing, and this is why he's doing it. A lot of these men, as you know from your own airborne forces, are incredibly brave, but they also have a very strong moral compass, which is part of being a Marine or an airborne soldier. And that gave me the impetus to start to put down the first opening chapters in Hades Gate, which is a book about a guy going to rescue a couple of women who've been sucked into a dark web plot. And that's pretty much how it began. I had already, by that point, I'd attended a thing called the Faber Publishing House, did a sort of course for young writers, and I've been on that. And that's how it kicked off. Guy Bowman is a fictitious ex-paratrooper. Funny how it comes around, isn't it? Yeah, that's how it works.
The pen name you used is J.S. Main. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've written other books, and my wife and I decided that we would write this one, or this series together. She's an American psychologist, and she's worked with lots of people who have various kind of intense issues, actors as well as soldiers and ex-militia and so on. And we decided, her name is Joy, so the J is for Joy, S is for Sean, and Maine is just a name we chose out of a hat. But we wanted it to be something we did that was not related to what I'd written or what she'd written. She'd written many other things. So we wrote them together. And husband and wife writing team is one of the toughest ways of getting anything done. But it was quite brilliant, because passing the buck back and forward when we'd written a paragraph. No, you can't say that. Yes, do that. No, you wouldn't. I know him better than you do, and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Real quick, we got Hades' Game and Skin in the Game. I got these on Amazon, but you have other books you said on your website. Where can people find those?
Oh, if you go to SeanChapman.com, the other books are listed there, and they're available to download on Kindle. Thank you for that, Simon.
All right, commercial over. I'm just so excited to read these. Whenever I hear that one of my favorite actors is an author, I just gotta read the stuff, you know? And you gotta support, right? So here we go. Go check the stuff out and support our friends.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Brilliant.
All right, I can do this all day with you guys, but let's turn it out to the audience. What do we got? Start with you.
I would love to do your books, but I would have to hear them. Are any of them on audio?
No, that's something that I haven't yet got around to doing.
Okay. I think we talked.
I think if you buy the Amazon Kindle thing, I think there's an automatic version of a kind of very ordinary narration that so it's probably an AI voice, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it will be an audible version.
Okay.
Audio
Okay.
version. Yeah. Good luck.
Yes.
Thank you.
Me? This question's for you. You know, Stephen King, he has a book, it's kind of like a memoir style, he gives tips on how to write and everything. Would you ever write a book kind of about yourself and your experiences through the industry, and kind of like advice you'd have for people trying to really make something out of it? Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
There are many, many wonderful books like that. And it's a really, really good question, because of course every actor's journey is totally different, isn't it? The industry's changing at the speed of light. So any advice I have about what I went through as a younger actor and the kind of experiences that I ran into and the industry I was working in would now be more of historical interest than actually useful reference. Working at the National Theatre, working for the Royal Shakespeare Company are enormous steps in your life. They are life-changing events. They're not just jobs, they're vocational experiences. They are the highlights of my working life. And the funny thing is that you could do a wonderful play at the National Theatre for a year, 8 shows a week for a year, and people who saw the play will want to talk to you about it forever. But the vast majority of people in the world never see it. And so these things sort of pass into the distance. Far more people are interested in talking about Hellraiser, which is probably something I spent less than a month working on. So it's a wonderful profession, vocation, when it's going well and when you are engaged by it. But it's a very, very tough life. And if anybody who's young comes to me and says, I think I want to be an actor, what should I do? I say, go and be an amateur actor. And then their face falls. And you say, well, what's the matter? And they say, well, I don't want to be on the amateur stage with that. I said, why not? Well, no, you want the money, you want the glamour, that's what you want, isn't it? You want the fame. But that's not a good enough reason to be an actor. Go and find something, some company of actors, so you can begin to explore the process of what it really is. But it's not a life I would ever advocate for people now.
Did you have anything you wanted to contribute to that question?
No, what Sean hit the nail on the head. It's a very different world. It's just different. There's something missing. I don't know what what is the word I'm looking for? Growing up, doing it in my day, I don't know, it was only the other day, this change is recent. There's a lot of warmth about the lovely old actors who used to be so kind and helpful to you on your way up. Girls and boys alike, both sexes. There's a feeling of camaraderie and belonging about it. And only coziness that sort of hides you away from the rest of the world. I don't mean that, but there was a good. It was the whole thing was an enjoyable experience. Point being, apart from the actual the plays you may be in, or the theatre, the television shows, whatever it may be, is the friendships that we make, and they are worth their weight in gold. I don't know these days. I haven't done a lot lately, it's true, you know, but it's just not feeling that it was turned into a bit of a factory. Am I getting that wrong? Or is it?
No, I think that bonding that used to go on among actors was related as well to the fact that when Oliver and I were younger actors, you know, people would work very regularly in film, theatre and TV across the board. And now it's much more compartmentalised. You're either a film actor or you're known for being a theatre actor, and it's much harder to move between the media. And I think that therefore it's very difficult to form professional relationships because you work for a short time together with someone and then everybody lives in different parts of the country, just like they do here. And you all explode and go away at the end of the gig and it's over. So that bonding experience has changed
I
because...
think the budget, the most important of all, the money, the budget always speeds things along to some extent. It deprives those moments of, it must get around.
Well, there was that time, wasn't there, in the past when we'd get a phone call and you'd be called out to the film set to go and do something, and you'd be on the film set for several months.
Yeah,
And
waiting for the first line.
waiting for the first line. Well, the money men came in and went, nah, not so much. That's got to come to a stop. And you'd sit in hotel rooms in Budapest and the most exotic parts of the world, killing time with other actors and getting very drunk. And we called that bonding. We thought that was very fun. But the accountants didn't, so that had to stop. And now, what was 7 months of work became 3 days.
So my favorite scenes from Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 were yours, both scenes. So 2 questions for you, Sean. What was the filming process like when you were surrounded by the candles and saw them in the box? For Ollie, when you were on the mattress and the whole comes thing. That's what that made me go into porn.
It's that opening scene is extraordinary, isn't it? And it was filmed in a shabby little room, fabricated in a shabby little studio. The sound effects that were added later, which give you the creaking floorboards and the sense of mist that's emerging in the room, none of that was there. It wasn't added in CGI, it was just added into a different level of lighting and sound effects, folio and everything else. So I was on my knees. I was a happy young actor in my mid-20s, I think I was then, and just loving working with Clive and him just giving us lots of time to think about what it is you're hearing, and you've deliberately done this act of opening this box and just letting the tension build by not knowing what's around you, what's behind you. We shot it, it's fine. And then when I saw the cast and crew screening, and I saw the film begin, and that music, that fantastic music the film has, and you just seeing it and going, oh wow, we've made a really good opening to the film. As an actor, you're in those scenarios, you never quite know how anything is going to turn out. And I remember seeing that cast and crew screening and thinking, dear God, Clive is just a genius, because he did the most with the least. So yeah. You're always fingers crossed, you're always hoping it's okay.
The mattress scene with when you were cooking yourself.
The mattress scene, yes, took a whole day. I was looking at Tony Mandel, who directed that. Yeah, he said to me, we've got you playing the Spices before, but I was told that I was going to be in Hellraiser 2. The part you're playing, sadly, has only got the one line. That's the bad news. The good news is you can scream it as many times as you So we got in there that day. It's absolutely extraordinary day filming. And yes, I was, again, went through the process of having to, we'd been brought out of the padded cell. I got to this creature, what was his name? Mr. Browning, that's it, Mr. Browning, who thought he had got creepy crawlers under his skin and he was straitjacketed to stop him scratching. So Ken Crannon's character, the evil Dr. Chapman, Kenny Fleshmale in my padded cell, wheeled me into this room, this study, where he contrived to put this mattress, which with blood spells on it would bring the Julia back from death. So I was the victim. So therefore, he leads me into his study, takes my straitjacket off, gets me onto the mattress. All the time I'm gibbering like an idiot. And he then hands me a couple of razor to scratch these things I've got. So I dine out on myself, and I scratch myself, I bleed all over the mattress, and screaming, he's getting them up, mate, and said, I'm really boring, get them up, because we had to do several takes of this, cut lovely, keep up the old, yeah. So it went on and on and on, because eventually, through the mattress, this lovely actress called Deborah Joel, who was playing the part of Juliet, but had to come out, so they mechanically drawn up onto the mattress level from the bowels of the studios. And then we went to this sequence where she got up there and eventually ended up eating me, but not before. We'd been chased all the way around there, down the studio, with slime and blood everywhere, and I was mounted from behind. It was quite an exotic experience. And until I expired. They cut, and they gave me a mouthful of yellow custard, and action, so vomited that over the floor, and that was my part over. And that was a lot. Got back to my studio, my dressing room, with a bottle of scotch on my dressing table. And he said, "Dear Ollie, sorry it's been such a long, hard day." Loved the production.
Aww.
So that, there's the answer to the question. Loved every minute.
Yes, great, bandana.
I'm just curious, with both of you essentially playing the same character for the first movie, was it directed at all for like the mannerisms, or was it something that you collaborated together on?
It's a very generous-hearted question, but the fact is that you often shoot sequences like this in different times, different places, different days. And I never worked for a single day with Doug Bradley as Pinhead.
I didn't work for a single day with Chapman as me.
So we're still trying to work out, is he playing me or am I playing him? We don't know. We never solved that.
We've got to meet each other. I don't know.
I think I inherited that bottle of whiskey from your dressing room. But yeah, that is, in a way, that's part of the art of working on a movie, is that you, and more now, of course, with the CGI business, where people they're just working in front of a blue screen and don't meet 90% of the people they're working with. This wasn't as brutal as that, but it's very common that you will do scenes that are involving characters you're supposed to be intimate with, and you may never see them, never meet them. So it helps to, in that sense, it helps to have a theatre imagination, because you're used to creating a sense of something around you, near you, whatever. And lots of younger actors in film are not that comfortable with that awareness. They just want to always be close to another human being, and feel the set, and so on. Working around that is half the skill. But we didn't have a love-in.
As Frank, did you have any backstory to him before you got on set, or did you kind of create it, or did you just read the script and figure it out?
I met Clive in a hotel room in London, and I had the script for a couple of days, and I loved the script. I could see that it was interesting in multiple ways. I had no idea how clever his design was going to be. But we met, and he said to me, "Oh, so great, I'd really love to talk to you about, what do you think about Frank?" And I said, "Well, he comes out of nowhere, he's the nowhere man, I like that. I like the fact that there's a mystery. But for me to play that, I've still got to be grounded in some awareness. And I liked the idea. I said, what about that he's just on the run from perhaps the military? Perhaps he's done bad things out there in Vietnam at some point, and I picked up that American theme that the film almost has, it doesn't quite have, and it's almost English, and it's not quite English, which is all part of its kind of quaint little charm in a way. It's not a linear story in that sense. You don't quite know where you are. And I said, I'd like to feel that he's on the run, that he's done other things, and why would he come back and torment his brother and his brother's wife in this way? Because he just does, because he wants to. And Clive went, yeah, just hold on to that not knowing, but let's have an idea that he's military trained. He's able to look after himself and doesn't hesitate to. If the boot were on the other foot, he'd do the Cenobites and a lot of damage. So yeah, that was the sense of having something physical in his past that mattered. And doing his brother down. Where the hell's that from? It's not justified in the text in any way, in the script. You play it for what it's worth.
You understand it though.
Yeah, thank you. I think you do, yeah, thank you so much.
Someone over here somewhere. Yeah.
I was just wondering if you were familiar with Clive Barker's writings beforehand, and were you a fan, and then going in and participating in having an impression of Clive Barker before you got into the filmmaking process about what the books told you about him, and was that different or the same, or what you experienced when the film started?
The simple answer is I never met Clive Barker before in my life. I'm repeating an answer to this question I've been asked before. It was one of those, to talk about the acting profession earlier, the grapevine got to me, and so far as Selwyn Roberts, who was assistant to the director on the film, had a word with a mate of mine called Robin Nedwall, who then rang me up and said, hey, they're looking for a skinny actor to play a monster, an horror movie, but they don't want a zombified extra doing it. They want a versatile actor of skinny origin. And so I got back to Robin, who soon got back to Selwyn, who told Clive, I think I found you a bloke who's interviewable. And actually name dropped me because I worked with him when he was director. So I went along to meet Clive, knew nothing about Clive Barker, never even heard of him. And we sat together for an hour, chatting about this, read a bit of the script, chatted about it, to my mind being rubberized and all that. I said, no, I'm totally adaptable to any degree of pokery you want to impose on me. And naturally enough, I got the job after that because I taught my way to a form of punishment, being 5 hours in makeup. But that's it. So no, intellectually, knew nothing about Clive until the event. But I did do as I was told when it came to the revived version of my dear old channel.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anything about him. And I'd never read the books. I'd never heard of them. Everything was new from that script on. But he turned out to be extraordinarily creative to be with, and gentle, and lots of first-time directors panic and they feel they've got to direct you into the ground. You know, I am a director, and I'll show you what you have. Clive never did that, and he cast you because he liked you, trusted you, liked you not as a person necessarily, but liked your instincts. It's a big difference.
I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, he was very kind, a very nice man, a kind, gentle soul, Clive Barker, no question about that at all.
There's a legend
of him, because there's that rapport you have with people like him, so that would be a better reason for getting him apart rather than that just a skinny actor.
There's a legend, isn't there, that he turned up on the first day, he walked onto the set and said, oh, it's looking really great, everyone. Who's in charge here? Someone went, do you want to start? He was so unpretentious and as an artist. And he told me a story once which in a sense gives the Books of Blood their real focus and meaning, which is that for a long time, of course, he lived in England and had been unemployed and therefore was drawing, government money. And he'd been doing it for a long time. And he got called into the Inland Revenue Office and Government Office or whatever, and he knew he was going to be called in. He got the letter, and he went in, and they said, "So, Mr. Barker, you've had a great deal of Her Majesty's government's benefits, and you've spent a great deal of time not doing any work, as far as we're concerned. Can you explain what on earth it is you've been up to?" And Clive had taken a suitcase with him into the office, not because he was expecting to be sent to prison, but he opened the suitcase up and tipped it on the floor, and there was manuscript after manuscript, there was novella, there was pages of this, there were notes, there were drawings, and he said, "I've been doing that, what have you been doing?" And that I love, and that makes him the person he is, in terms of he'd invested huge amounts of time in his own creativity when there wasn't necessarily anywhere for that to go. But it had actually made him the artist that he is, and still is, yes. He was a delight to work for. But the Books of Blood, no, I didn't know anything about them. Not at all.
Did you become a fan afterwards, or have you?
Do you know? No, it's not really. I mean, I'm kinky as hell, but I don't particularly like the blood thing in that sense. It has its place, but not. No, that wasn't really my thing then.
Do we have any questions in the center right there?
This is for Oliver. What was your initial reaction to seeing yourself when you got the full prosthetics and makeup for Skinless Uncle Frank?
It's a very good question. It's because I was so aware of it going on, and I got used to it after day one. But the reactions I got from people who just seeing me around that unsuspecting corner was, "Oh my God, yeah." So yeah, it was freaky. Even off the set, just being seen with such the makeup was good news. But no, I didn't have any. I didn't really get it sort of. I just knew that I was a reborn sort of corpse eating band, whatever the expression is. Extraordinary, really. And it just did the lines after that with as much meaning as possible. Difficult to describe how that went, but it was all very bizarre. A lot of death and eating.
What was your reaction to seeing Oliver in the? You didn't see him in person, but like the film.
Right, obviously. I could see photographs of the makeup room of he'd been there the day before. Absolutely astonishing, wasn't it? And Clive had said to me one day, I think 2 or 3 days into shooting, "Oh, come and see the guys in the workshop. They're doing amazing stuff, you know." And I said, "Oh, are they? Yeah, I'll come in."
Yeah.
And going through and seeing the animatronics, you know, where the arm is coming through the floor and that sort of thing. And it was levers, it was tubes of water and pressure hoses, and the guys had done all this meticulous work on the hand, the skin hand, and the face.
Yeah.
And just thinking, wow, this is a whole step up in what we're doing in the other room, where we're doing the dialogue and we're setting up, you know, "Hi, I'm Uncle Frank, can I come in?" and all that stuff. I'm doing that, but in this other room off there, these guys are working miracles, you know. And they had the pinhead head on the mount, and you're looking at that going, "This is astonishing." And immediately you knew they'd be iconic. You couldn't put those out anywhere without people going, "Wow, wow, wow." And one of the ancillary answers to your question is, the film came out at a time when BDSM imagery and fetish imagery existed, but it was very underground. It was very, and the film suddenly went, "Yeah, there it is. The themes are available," and so on. And within about 2 months in London, I remember the club scene had become completely fetish. And girls from the Royal Ballet School were turning up in these sort of latex numbers and looking fantastic and prowling the streets and thinking, yeah, I'm part of that. Hellraiser thing is good. It's unleashed an energy, that particular point in time. But that makeup work, I mean, there'd been nothing really quite like it. It was very, very beautiful. I mean, literally beautiful to see. It was so detailed. One of the themes that throws up is, why is the film as effective as it is? Well, it's because, unlike a CGI effect, what's being filmed is a 3D article, that face, and it's moving, and it's got the most wonderful irregularities in it, little pulses, little moments. So unlike with a CGI effect, where your eye and your ear know they're being tricked, so you actually don't buy in. Psychologically, the animal part of you knows you're being tricked, so you will not buy the story. If you go and watch Gladiator 2, you can watch 2.5 hours of spectacular action sequences, some very bad acting, and you sit there and you go, good, let's go and have a drink now, shall we? But 5 minutes of Hellraiser, or an equivalent film at the time, there are a couple. Elephant Man has the same sense of absolutely forensic brilliance to it, and deeply moving. I mean, Hellraiser is not meant to be moving in that way, but that effect, that level of work that they did on him was just shocking. You know, it's wonderful. So, yeah.
Going back to what you said about the underground fetish scene, let's quote Ashley at our last panel. She says, Ashley said that this movie was a gay dog whistle. And she was absolutely right.
Oh my god.
Okay, we have time for one more audience question before I wrap you up. Let's go to the back.
Okay. How did Clive approach you to be in the movie? Like, when did you audition, or was it like you were friends, or how did you get involved?
Yes, no, I explained earlier, I was just the right shape for this part. It's all to do with the being skinny enough for it, and can you act? Well, I told him I could, so it could have been lying, couldn't I? But anyway, the point, that's good fortune striking. You know, actors get sort of parts that they go up for, desperately get, and they don't get them. This was, just letting you know, I'm a character, a rubberized monster. And so when I got it, they thought, you've no idea what's going to happen in this film. Never mind getting on the set and doing it. So that's good fortune on my part. Sean probably got his through his Stevie.
That sounds like a threat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That sounds great.
No, what was great was going to meet him and meeting him in a hotel room in, I think it was Bloomsbury, and we sat down, cups of tea came out, and we kicked off. But as I say that, what's wonderful as a memory is that that's how you used to get your meaningful work. When you were a young actor and you were hunting up small parts from somewhere, then you might even then just have been filmed. Well, I don't think that's true. You'd have been filmed by a casting director and it would have been passed on. What I'm trying to say is, it was part of the glory days where you actually met the people that you might be working with, as opposed to sending them a piece of tape or a piece of iPhone footage which you've shot in your bathroom because you've had a call from someone you've never met saying, can you do that, your agent, can you do this? And then, I know you're in Budapest and I know it's difficult for you because you're working 8 days a week. Can you do this? And then send it to Vimeo and use this code, and you go, fuck off. Just fuck off. Right. So that's part of the reason that I can't function in the industry anymore. I don't do it, quite happily not. But I remember meetings like that where you got the chance to, time was not quite of the essence that it is now. People gave you time to come forward and talk about what you might do. So that's my memory of it, yeah. Hotel room with a nice cup of tea.
So, before I wrap this up, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for being here and allowing me to be the center of a Frank sandwich. Right? I know! I can't believe it!
The pleasure's all ours. The pleasure is all ours.
I wanted to ask you guys have had such a long and amazing careers, both of you, both in film, theater, and everything. Author. What do you want your legacy to be?
I think my legacy takes care of itself. I'm sorry, it's so difficult to answer that without saying, a goody-goody. No, my dad was a lovely man. I dear old dad, he always gave me lots of sound advice, and one of his magic lines used to be, it's about being a person, never mind what your job is. Always be yourself and always tell the truth. I've kind of done that in life. I've been blessed with some really rather lovely friends, boys and girls alike. Yeah, marvellous. Had a good life, marriage, children, all those things. And amidst this, a sea of lovely chums within the profession that is the acting profession. For kindness is the thing that I remember most of all in the whole, never mind the tantrums, the bad bits. There's something rather sweet about it. And I still smile now as I think about it. I didn't, it's always still a meeting like this. It's a bit, it's got a little, do you remember when it used to be? Yeah. It's a romantic idyll, but it happened. All true.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. And the legacy's a loaded word, isn't it? Because it makes you think you're going to sit around looking at a mantelpiece going,
You do realize that's what we do in Hellraiser, right?
well, what I would say about it is that one of the great privileges as an actor is to work in great material. And I'll sub this right down so it's very short, but I was very fortunate to be in a play at the National Theatre called Angels in America when it was first in London, before it had even been done on Broadway, and it was a wonderful experience which blew the world, the theatre world apart. And it's a magical process to be in a great piece of writing 8 times a week. You're changing people's attitudes to, in this case, the HIV crisis, which made COVID look like a joke, because HIV at the time the play was written, when the millennium was approaching, was the worst possible construct, because everyone was saying, well, if you've ever had unprotected sex, I mean, if you've ever had unprotected sex, even with yourself, pretty much, you know, you're going to die. You're going to die. There is no cure, and if you've ever been abroad and had unprotected, well, you know, you don't stand a chance. So the play dealt with this, and it had this incredible power because of that. But the magic of the process is this, that several years later, I'm walking down Charing Cross Road in London, and a woman stops me and says, you did the play, you were wonderful in the play, that wonderful play. Yes, and she said, I've never forgotten that amazing scene where you were in the hospital with all these people. And I went, no, I was alone on a hospital bed. And I was talking to a group of angels who were around me. And she went, no, there were lots of other beds. And I went, no, there wasn't. And she saw lots of other beds. She saw a single bed on a stage that was brilliantly lit with wonderful text. And she had seen a world that didn't exist, but that's what theatre can do, and that's what being an actor puts you in touch with, is that magical element of make-believe, which can be so very powerful. So my legacy would be to remember moments where you've contributed to that magic of storytelling and theatre and history of that kind of thing. So no one will know all of them. I've got some on my sleeve that I remember, but that would be my legacy thing.
You just give me goosebumps.
Good.
I got me all emotional because theater's the best, right?
It can be. It can also, there's nothing worse than bad theatre though, but yes.
That's always a matter of opinions. It's a matter of opinions. Okay, guys, thank you so much. All right, gentlemen, let's get a photo in front of the banner, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's stand up again in front of the banner.
I told him, I was like, we're in
Hello.
I'm gonna order some
Final of the day.
so just wait
All
for
right.
it and then go.
Come on back, Michelle.
Yeah, one coming in.
I know, we're gonna be busy.
About to go out to the lobby and then yeah.
Well done, my dear.
Yes. I'm here all the time. Oh, I'm not. Amy did that all the time. Yes. No problem. Oh yes, I'll be out there. You got my info too.
See you later, bud.